Okay. So good evening, everyone, and good evening once again. We're excited to come your way. Sincere apologies for the late start and also any inconvenience caused. Tonight we are privileged to have Lady Justina Owu-Agyiri to take us through the childhood webinar. That's childhood trauma. I'll take that again. I'm sorry, Jones, please could you take me on the topic because I'm a bit with the writing, I'm a bit lost.
Okay, so we are trying to discuss childhood trauma or the effect of childhood trauma on adulthood.
Okay,
So
thank
if
you.
someone experienced a trauma during childhood, how does it impact the person later in life? So that's what we want to talk about this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so the arts is a bit sorry about that once again. And so we are grateful to have Lady Justina Owu-Agyiri take us through the topic childhood trauma and then its effect on adulthood. A brief profile about Lady Justina. And so she is a state licensed psychologist in the clinical counseling specialty. She holds experience in psychotherapy and psychological emergencies, a trainer of trainers for the Family Life and Counseling Education Program, that's PWC in Bukobi, and Trauma Healing Program, that's Bible Society, Ghana. Lady Justina is passionate about health behavior interventions and psychoeducation. She is in full-time practice with the Health Essentials Limited, that's Medics Clinic and Ghana Atomic Energy Commission Hospital. She holds membership with the Ghana Psychological Association, Ladies Association, where she is the vice president, and PCG Counselors Association. She is the national organizer as well. And so Lady Justina loves to sing, gardening, keeping pets, cooking, and knitting in her free time. Lady Justina, thank you once again for making time to join us this evening. We are grateful to have you.
Thank you so much, Amma, and good evening to everyone. It's a great honor to be given such a huge responsibility to speak with you on the topic today. I welcome everybody on board. I normally want my presentation to be a discussion type. So I may ask questions that I would look forward for responses. And then if you don't respond, I'll mention your name because I know your name. Thank you once again. So by way of introduction to the topic, I'm sure you'll be looking up that I share my screen. I'm giving that responsibility to another person and I hope you will see it soon. Thank you for that. So you have it, even if it doesn't come now, you have it. So according to WHO, trauma is a major developmental and public health concern. And then the statistics in Ghana rate that physical trauma stands at 41% as it is now. Growth, 36, domestic and work, 29%, and then sexual trauma, we have 21 to 28%. So you can imagine how it's eating into our lives as a people. And then also understand childhood health outcomes in adulthood. So
Please, sorry, I'll be glad you let me know which slide I should project so that I can move to that side.
I'm just at the introduction, so I'm moving to the outline.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the presentation will follow this outline. That is looking at objectives, which I'll give it to you when I'm done with the outline. So objectives, understanding trauma, causes of childhood traumas, and then effects of childhood traumas on adulthood, and then healing and recovery from trauma. That's the outline for discussion. I'm hoping that by the time we are done, we'll be able to understand and identify major types of trauma, and then differentiate the various forms and causes of childhood traumas, and then understand the adverse childhood experiences, the framework, and then be able to describe how trauma affects the brain, behavior, and our physical health. And then we explore healing strategies with trauma-informed care in mind. And then also try to recognize and then prevention, early intervention approaches. That's what I'm hoping that by the time I'm done, we'll be able to get from this presentation. So in trying to understand trauma, then we'll look at it from the perspective that it's a natural, emotional, or psychological response to distressing event. So this one, we can look at it from adaptive point of view or traumatic. So trying to interpret whatever distress is happening as a trauma or as something you can cope with depends on the individual. One, our personality, our culture, our experiences, and then our exposure will help us determine or being able to process information or events as whether traumatic or we will be able to adapt to it. We adapt when we've been able to build resilience. And the points I raised are the basis. When you have been exposed to such things before, when your culture, your environment, your personality predisposes you, all this will play a role. So usually you will say that this small thing and you are broken. No, it might be small to you, but not small to the other person because of the differences and the circumstances that I have made mentioned. Then we look at the various categories of trauma. That is the primary trauma, that is direct. Now I'm on the same slide. That is direct experience. So you are involved with whatever the situation is. You are part of the distressing event. That is primary trauma. Then we have the secondary, that is witnessing someone else going through trauma. Then we have the vicarious, that is internalizing trauma through empathy or exposure. So this one is like you are seeing from a distance where you are not directly involved, where you are not directly witnessing. But because of empathy, this vicarious trauma, usually we have it from even watching the news or watching some movies or hearing some stories about incidents or events. Then the secondary one usually happens to caregivers. Caregivers like the health workers, which includes we counselors, psychologists, and all those. So somebody will come and share his or her experience with you. And out of empathy, you are also traumatized. You were not there when the incident happened, but hearing it because of empathy, you are kind of broken, which is okay. It makes you a human being, and that's about the vicarious trauma. Then we look at what childhood traumas are. So we know a child is anyone below age 18 in Ghana, or mostly worldwide. That is the age we'll describe as childhood. So we're looking at distressing events that occur to people under the age or before age 18. And these events could include, but not limited to, physical, sexual, emotional abuses. Then we look at physical and emotional neglect. So we have children who have never known their parents, or who have never been friendly with their parents. So they see their parents coming and it's all about screaming at them, why I didn't do this, why I didn't do that. Or even not having access to their parents. So maybe they were born and something happened, be it deliberate or not. They don't know their mother, they don't know their father, or both. Either the parents cannot or deliberately won't take care. It leads to trauma. Then we have household dysfunction. These could be caused by illnesses, mental health issues, medical conditions, substance use and abuse, incarceration, and all those things could cause dysfunction homes or households, and it results in childhood traumas. These traumas may be acute or chronic. So here I'm referring to single events or repeated events. So the repeated event could be the same thing being repeated, or different traumas being experienced. So it's either acute or chronic. So I have a simple image to show here as some of the traumas children go through. So when you look at the picture, define it. I think it's self-explanatory, where you get drunk, come home, your child is there watching. It may result in trauma that we never think of. So let's look at some of the types of trauma that affect young ones, or types of childhood traumas. So we have abuse, like I have said already. We have the physical abuse, we have emotional abuse, we have sexual abuse. We often are aware of physical and sexual, but we mostly neglect emotional. In our time, the young ones are a bit aware and they keep talking about emotional. They say they are too sensitive, or they are being pampered, but it's a critical thing to look at. Then we have neglect. Neglect, we could talk about physical neglect, that is being born and you don't have parents to take care of you. That is a simple way I will say. Then we have the emotional neglect, where you are living with both parents, but you don't feel. I normally say they are present but not available. So you see them. Yes, I've had teenagers who are telling me they don't know whether to say they are living with their parents or not, because they hear of them, but they don't see them. They don't have any contact with them. Your feeding money is put down somewhere, and you go, you come, and the money has been put in there, but who is putting it there? You don't see the person. We mostly think it's normal because we're working to get money to come and take care of you. But young ones of today are struggling with this emotional neglect a lot. So as counselors, we have to pay attention to it. Then household dysfunction, I've mentioned some of them already. Mental illness caused by parental mental illness. So because of that, they cannot have the house or home that is supposed to be. Then we have incarcerated relationships. We have substance use and abuse parents. I've spoken about vicarious and secondary trauma, where mother is being treated violently. Just 3 days ago, I heard a story and I was shocked. So a woman being beaten in front of the children. You might think it's the woman you are punishing. The effect on the children is very huge. It is time we talk about some of these things. Then almighty divorce. In our part of the world, usually when parents want to go their separate ways, they forget that two of them brought some guests into their lives. Their feelings and their inputs usually are neglected. And this has serious effect on these young ones who experience that. Then we look at, I can't talk about trauma without generational traumas. So here we're looking at intergenerational, transgenerational traumas. So these are traumas transmitted from one person's experience and passed down. So it can be grandparents to parents to children, grandchildren, in that order, which is very common in our part of the world. It could be behavior, it could be belief system, it could be an emotional environment. That's what normally happens. So in some homes, they haven't said anything, but the way they do things, it becomes a family thing. Some their beliefs, so they don't eat certain food because something, you know, those stories, or they don't even farm on certain days and all those things. Then the emotional environment. In this home, we don't cry. Born down to a man must not cry. We all know this philosophy. It started from somewhere like that. Then we have unresolved trauma in parents or caregiver from wars, abuse, colonial issues, systemic, and then racism. Systemic is what we are battling with, like the gender restrictions. So it has been passed on. Today, somebody was asking on a platform I find myself, is there any scientific basis for a woman that's cooking and household chores in marriages? But it has been passed on to us to the extent that some people even believe that in the marriage relationship, the woman trains the children. Then what does the man do? What's the husband's job? That's another thing we have to look at. Then racism. In our part of the world, we have tribalism and even religious, another tribalism that is popping up, religion and religious restrictions. All these affect young ones, even how some of the religious activities are organized. It's all about screaming and shouting and all those things, and children are there. The Christians are conducting deliverance and cater in, and nobody cares about the trauma they are being exposed to because they don't understand what is happening. They watch people falling, screaming, and you can imagine what is going through a younger person's thinking. I'm not tagging Christians, but it's an issue that we have to pay attention to. Then we can look at the interconnection between childhood and generational traumas. So children being raised by traumatized adults often absorb the emotional pain, anxiety, dysfunctional behaviors, and on and on and on. They grow with it. So you know that our first teachers are our parents, whether we like it or not. So there are things they are doing, cast your mind back. There are things you say to your children. There are insults you raise on people that you don't have reasons. You don't have any tangible reason. You don't have any excuse, but it was said to you. Like I always said, taxi driver telling somebody, your face like fried yam. I'm wondering how fried yam looks like. But the person was told, and things that once I'm angry, I also have to say it to somebody. the suspense that we were beaten with. If you are not beaten with suspense, maybe the benkustie and all those things. Sometimes you wonder why a parent will do that, but it happens and they think they are training children. They are disciplining, putting up disciplinary measures. Some, it's all about hitting. All these things result in traumatic adverse effects. Then this creates a cycle because sometimes unaware, unconsciously, we learn and that is what we know. Like I said, somebody says, me, I'll never hit my wife, should I marry? And that's the first thing. And you finish and come and cry. I didn't want to, I don't know what came over me, because that is what the brain has recalled and knows is the appropriate way to reprimand or correct a spouse. So it comes you call the automatic thought and automatic behaviors. But no parent sat a child and said, when a woman does that, hits this part of the body, insult this way, but they learn. Then epigenetics shows, research shows that these traumas can change how genes are expressed, potentially passing stress response biologically to future generations. So some people are born stressed up already because of the family history and then generational traumas. So right from the word go, they are scared of something. So this is an image to show how generational trauma is like. So the grand is in the chair, the son is there, the grandchildren and the great-grandchild, and see how they are passing it on to each other. This is how it looks like when we talk about generational trauma. Now look at causes of childhood traumas. We know some of them. Maybe we haven't paid attention to them. So we have loss or abandonment. When you lose your parent, it's a natural thing. But it's not natural your parent will abandon you. But certain circumstances could lead to that. Then we have medical traumas or disabilities. So a child is born, gets sick, and go through a whole lot of medical treatment issues and all those things. It's enough to traumatize that child. And then some even end up developing disabilities, or some are born with the disabilities where medical field cannot do much about it. That alone, the most sad part is those who are born without it, but grow to extent and it develops. At least they saw themselves walking. And then I remember I heard a boy asking the mom, I remember I was walking and I used to play football. How come I can't walk again? You can imagine the response the mother will have to give to this little one. Then we can look at cultural and systemic discrimination that is killing Ghana and Africa at large. So we look at intertribal marriages. Some tribes don't marry certain tribes. It's systemic. It could be cultural. Some families can marry certain families or don't do things with other people. And some people are given special names. I wouldn't want to mention the name, but you know the names I'm talking about. When you go to the Fanti land, they have names for those who are not living at the beaches or the seaside. They have names or ways of describing them. When you come to the southern part, we have ways of describing those from the northern part. You know them. Then we have interpersonal violence or abuse. Usually, children grow up with other children, or even a child is playing, they fall, and they get seriously injured. Like one I saw last Thursday, half of the head is broken just because he was playing. That one It wasn't anybody's fault. The child must learn and learn by playing. So it's part of it. But at the end of the day, it leaves this child in a traumatic situation. Then we can look at almighty poverty, wars, and then disasters. Usually we say in Ghana, there hasn't been any war for some years, but we have political, tribal wars now using the social media to promote. We have to be careful. It might not be physical, but it's a war that we have to pay attention to. And then we can even look at screen itself, exposing young ones to the screen, and they see things they are not supposed to see, and it's having a toll on them. So this is simplified in the image you are seeing. So we can look at bullying, complex trauma, disasters, early traumas, like the health issues that I made mention, losing a parent, and all those things. Then we have the physical abuse, domestic violence, medical trauma, religious trauma, where a child is being taken to a priest or something because the child is a witch or wizard, or the child possesses a certain spirit, and for that matter, it must be cast. And this child doesn't even understand what they are talking about, but is subjected to all these kind of stuff. And we talk about emotional trauma, grief. When we lose relatives, family members, we ignore the feelings of these young ones. It could be grand, it could be great, it could be an auntie, it could be parent themselves, but we think, oh, they are children, they don't know, but they know. As far back as some could recall by age 1, some age, at least I've worked with age 2. I met her when she was 16 years, but what was the problem started when she was 2 years. So we have to be careful when children are involved. Talking about trauma. Now let's see how trauma affects us in our adulthood, our childhood traumas, how it affects us in our adulthood. So I'm looking at the brain now. So the brain, amygdala, that is a part of the brain that controls how we see things. So it creates overreactivity, hypervigilance. So your awareness, when this part of the brain is affected due to trauma, you become hyper or over vigilant. So they are always on the alert. So when you find people among you, people you work with, they are almost always on the alert. They are almost always hyperactive. And you should know something has gone on. I break it down this way so that usually as part of us, we are quick to judge. We probably don't know we are even judging. But that is how I see it. This small thing you are angry, this small thing and you are screaming, it's a kind of judgment. You may not know what somebody has been through or someone's story. So we have to be careful, especially practicing in the field of counseling. I always say that if you are a therapist or a counselor, there are certain conversations you shouldn't partake. There are certain posture you shouldn't take because you cannot tell your client base. You can't pick people to come for you for counseling. People choose to come to you, and you might not tell your potential client. So you have to be careful. You might set it in a market, thinking my client will come from church, but that client is in the market who heard what you said, and for that matter, they won't come. So some of the lay counselors say, I don't get cases to attend to. People don't come to me. Some of the things are due to that. The way you spoke to that lady, me, I won't come. Can this person help? People have these issues. That's why we are discussing this. Then the hippocampus of the brain, impaired with learning memory loss. So when people are traumatized, the hippocampus develop deformity. So learning and memory become impaired. This is where they struggle to learn. I've met a 16-year-old who is still in primary 6 because he's not able to learn. And the best they could do is to repeat, repeat, repeat. But the boy has gone through a lot growing up, which has been neglected or undiagnosed. Nobody has been able to identify that. So when people are struggling with learning, it's not that they can't learn or for them they are useless. No, something is wrong somewhere. It could even be medical or it could be as a result of childhood trauma. Then we look at the frontal cortex of the brain, poor impulse control and decision making. So people get angry and you know this person is this kind of person, people with a reputation, then get angry and do things like things that we saw recently at the Parliament House. You ask yourself, people of this status can do better. It stems from some trauma somewhere. I'm not saying all of them, but in most cases, you dig deeper and you notice that some of those people have gone through certain traumatic experiences growing up. Then toxic stress alters brain structure and then hormone regulations. So certain hormones that are supposed to be produced at certain time or certain point in life are either not being produced or overly being produced, and it affects the way the person's hormones are regulated. So we're looking at the testosterone, we're looking at the estrogen and all those things. So when it's affected, when you are expected to be fine, you are off, your mood is down, or your mood goes down more often than it's expected. So you trace back childhood traumas. Then we can look at emotional and psychological. So people who have suffered childhood traumas, psychologically and emotionally have chronic anxiety and mood disorders. So when you talk about mood disorders, you're talking about anxiety itself, talking about depression, bipolar, and all those things. People who have been through childhood trauma easily develop these disorders. Then almighty PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So emotionally, you see that those people are numbed or have severe anxiety, which doesn't correspond with the situation. This is when they are adults. They easily get stress, post-traumatic stress disorder. Then you could trace it back to childhood traumas. In fact, before I continue, most of the mental health issues develop in adulthood. You will trace back childhood trauma, especially in our part of the world. Then low self-esteem or self-worth and self-identity. Yes. So people who don't value themselves, even though they are valuable, people are struggling with who they are. So you can trace back the LGBTQI. That's why they keep adding the digits. It should tell you how people are struggling with. And then mostly when you go deep, 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 most of them have childhood traumas. And that is why they are struggling with whether being a female or a male, or I mean, some even are saying they are none. So call me whatever you want to. They are not male, they are not female. Some have adapted to the animals, certain kind of animals. Then we have the maladaptive coping mechanisms, where people tend to hard drugs and become addicted and then self-harm. So I know people, they get angry and the only way to calm down or to cool themselves is to inflict pain on themselves or others. Yes, that is why somebody will kill and is happy. We have people that we may think they are armed robbers, but they come to your house, they won't take anything, but they will just come and kill you and they won't pick anything and they are happy. So these are some of the maladaptive coping mechanisms, emotionally, psychologically, to childhood traumas in adult life. Then we can equally consider behavioral and social outcomes. So most people who have suffered childhood traumas will have difficulty in forming relationships. Here, I'm not necessarily referring to marriage relationship, but when they are in school, they struggle to make friends. At church, wherever they are, they struggle. They start and they cannot. Some even won't at all. So they run away from people who want to get closer to them and maintain. Once you cannot form relationship, it's difficult to maintain just because I don't think there's a job that you don't relate. Definitely you do the job with other people. They are not able to maintain those jobs. Then we have social withdrawal or mistrust. In fact, the mistrust caused the withdrawal. So I won't even be part for me to make a friend or for somebody to come closer to me. So they prefer working alone, they prefer being indoors, do things on their own. Then risk-taking or avoidance behavior. Either whatever they are doing is risky, either to themselves or to others, or they will not do things at all. Then poor academic and career performance. Yes, I have already said people go to school and they are struggling to learn. They are on the job training and they are finding it difficult. We don't just have to judge and condemn them, but think of it from the traumatic experience they've had in childhood. We can equally consider relationships and parenting. So after all that we've said, is to the individual. Now, this person have managed to marry and is in a marriage relationship because in our part of the world, you grow to a point and you must marry. If you don't, they start questioning you. Even in the church, they will start questioning you and they will start praying for you because the devil is sitting with you. That is why you are not able to marry. So people will marry to cover up. But you realize that they are either overly compensating or emotionally withdrawn as parents. So somebody will say that, me, I didn't get a parent to take care of me. So why do I have to take care of my child? I believe you've heard it before. Others too, I didn't get any parent to take me to school. So if you won't go to school, be there. Because that is what they've come to believe and accept. Then risk of perpetuating trauma cycle, like the generational trauma I spoke about. Whatever experience they've gone through. So all that they know is when my child misbehaves, I get a sharpened cane, soak with whatever, pepper, whatever, and hit my child with it. It's the way of correcting because that is what they have been trained. That is what they've learned. Then attachment challenges. So either avoidant or anxious. So they cannot even have a healthy relationship with their spouses and their children, let alone their neighbors. Difficult with intimacy and boundaries. Either they put strict boundaries or very loosened ones. So today they are nice with their spouse, tomorrow they don't want to see the spouse. And some won't even talk about it, but the silent treatment or the I don't care attitude at home, whether there's food or not. So recently it's coming up that wives get pregnant, either men don't know how to help and you don't care. So they give you money to go to antenatal and it's enough. They are taking care of you, emotionally disconnected, and it's having a toll on most women today. Either it's don't and it's don't, or losing boundaries. So we don't say that this is how the person is, but we have to trace it back to childhood trauma and help the person appropriately. We also look at physical health as a result of childhood traumas. I'm sure most of us haven't looked at it from that point of view, but adverse effects of childhood traumas could go down to increase the risk of heart diseases, obesity, autoimmune diseases. When you hear autoimmune diseases, it wasn't common until recently. It should tell how trauma is eating into our society today. So it means we have to pay attention. Then we have gastroenteritis or gastrointestinal issues. That is talking about our digestive system. So most people who have been through trauma are not eating well. When I say not eating well, not necessarily the component of the meal, the timing and the how. So somebody is chewing clay, somebody is chewing fried yam without anything. And that is all that she wants, or that is all that he wants. Somebody finds it difficult sitting down to eat appropriate meal. And you think the person is difficult to be with, or the person doesn't know what to eat. These are some of the side effects of childhood traumas. So either they develop anorexia or binge eating disorders, or some also develop bulimia nervosa, where they are not eating. My group of people, they are not eating, or they are eating too much, or they don't sit and eat, but try to put things in their mouth. So these are side effects of adverse childhood traumas. We can look at chronic pain, fatigue syndrome, and all those. So the summary is what you are seeing now. Maybe you can find time and read more. So my interest is the image that look like a woman. So that's a full-grown woman. But look inside the body. This is how she looks like inside. And this is what you will not see. So well-dressed, doing well at work, but within, this is what the struggle is like. Now let's look at healing and managing of adverse childhood effects in adulthood. I deliberately didn't do much about professional help because you need to be trained to be able to provide such therapies. But these are very simple ones that you can easily learn. So the first one is the grounding techniques. So the grounding, this one, though it's easy, you must learn to understand. Here, I'm encouraging most of the lay to attach yourself. The law says you must have a supervisor, you must work under a professional, practicing professional. And these are some of the reasons. What we are doing is to help you identify people struggling with adverse childhood effects of trauma. Then you can recommend appropriate help, because when we give appropriate help, it reduces the struggles we are going to transmit to the young ones. So the grounding, we look at 5 things. That is seeing, feeling, hearing, smelling, and tasting. So usually you start from the 5. So when people are anxious, overly anxious, and you want to help, you can ask them. Usually I would prefer they close their eyes, then they turn around where they are. 5 things they can see immediately. Here you are bringing their attention to their now environment, the present. So they are not thinking about yesterday or hours back, but where they find themselves now. So where you are sitting, what 5 things can you see? Then you name them. Then what 5 things you feel? Then 3 things you hear. I don't know where you are and what. I wish somebody would tell me what they can see, what they can hear. I can see computers around me. At least I see a desktop, a laptop, and a tablet, and then a desk and a drawer, a flower in a flower pot, and then 9 sofas. Is it 5? Is somebody counting? So somebody should also tell me 4 things they feel where they are. Then another should tell me 3 things they could hear where they are. Then 2 things you can smell. and then one thing you can taste. When you take a person through this, the person relaxes and focus on where they are immediately. It's similar to the image on the other side. So the other one, you can call it the mirror therapy. So you tell yourself two kind or encouraging statements. So like, I'm beautiful, I am strong, I look good. It can be anything or more or less affirmation. Then image. So you can imagine things you enjoy. Is it food? Is it, anything. So maybe somebody enjoy food. I enjoy, what I enjoy too is food. It's still not food. So you are looking at the immediate. So you tell the person to, it can be imagine the person you love talking to, anything of that sort. Then intense and relaxed. Different muscles, so PMR comes in here. All these things that I'm talking about, I'm just mentioning them because I can't, by saying it, you can't practice. You have to learn. You have to be deliberate about learning them. So if you need any help, you can hook up with me later after the presentation, and then I will help you to learn these basic grounding techniques. So I'll move to the other ones. So I've spoken about the grounding already. Then body awareness and somatic techniques, that is physical. So here we have PMR, body scanning, and then tapping. All these we have to learn before we'll be able to do them. But in simply put, the PMR is wearing your muscles that there is pain, but there's comfort within the pain. So you help your body to find the comfort. So it takes a process to do it. I'm not sure we can do it online. You can call me, we'll have a video now, help you learn to do PMR. So here you focus on the pain and you focus on the relaxation that comes after the pain. So you take note of every part of you, just like putting your body in an X-ray machine or putting a document on a scanner. You are looking forward, everything on it must appear. It's similar to body scanning. And then the tapping, you gently use acupuncture, or you can just get some gravels, the chippings, put them somewhere, and then gradually step on them. It's a nice form of exercise. Then we have the expressive therapy, art and music therapy. So it's where you allow people to paint and all those things, trace and all kind of things that relate to art. Some can use some papers to do the artwork and it looks like magic. Although we have a lot of them, but painting is the most common one. It's not about, I don't know painting. Sometimes when they are doing the painting, you look at the colors they are picking and it speaks volumes. So somebody is painting a tree and the tree is red, 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 all the bright colors. It tells how aggressive the person is thinking. Then we have the movement-based therapy, that is the dance, drumming, but these days we don't often drum, especially in the basic schools. So here, as a therapist, you should have time. I always say that if you don't have time, you can't practice therapy, where you have to sit and drum and it tells the thing. Then we have the journaling, that is where emotions or the patient who says, Auntie, please, I would write, and she can write. But I'm happy because eventually she writes. She can write 5 pages, 6 pages, and on, and she's still writing. is very good if that is what the person, and help the client to know that yes, you are here to talk, but it's not necessarily verbal. If you don't want to draw, you have to expose them to all these techniques so that it makes it easy for them to express themselves. Then we can look at the faith-based techniques, that is spiritual grounding. Spiritual grounding. Who is the supreme? Whom does the person look up to? And can the person see that supreme being he or she look up to? And what is the connection? Is very, very important, trying to help people with trauma and then childhood traumas. I can talk about having healing process, going through healing process, and will not mention self-care. Talking about self-care includes a lot, like your sleeping pattern, your eating habits, your relationship interconnectivity, mindfulness. Mindfulness, I'm talking about what are you particular about your thoughts? And then all that I have spoken about. So we cannot heal from traumas without healthy dieting or sleep hygiene and good social relationships. Social relationship is not compulsory, though it's part of us, but it is better you are alone than to have a toxic relationship. So all that I'm saying is we should be deliberate and particular about some of these things. Somehow, some way we can prevent trauma or reduce the adverse effects. That is, if we are able to detect it early in schools, in clinics, in our churches. Now we know how it looks like and how they behave. So we should be able to help. Sometimes the very person is not even aware. But for them to accept help, how you communicate that to them is also important. So if you want to tell me that I am very, very rude and for that matter you think I need help, how you package the information is very crucial. Then education. Education in our schools, education in our churches, our professionals, everybody needs this education so that they know how they are creating these problems by causing trauma to young ones, how they themselves are suffering from it, and how we can help. So we should be able to identify our own childhood trauma and its effects, and try not to create similar situations for the young ones, and then also how to help them. We should educate people on these things. Parents are drinking and they don't know it's traumatic enough for their children. Parents are arguing. Pastors are screaming on the streets, in the churches, and they don't know how it's affecting the young ones. Somebody must be bold and assertively inform them, educate them. And that is why I believe this topic was chosen. Then we also build trauma-informed systems. When people are going through these things, do we have already set up some system to help? For instance, I always say in the church, when people are bereaved, what do? I am a Christian, that's why I keep using church, because that's what I know. But what do we do if I lose my parents, if I lose my father, if I lose my child? After the funeral, how does the church help me? We've monetized everything, but is it all about money? When you lose, what I know is most cases, when you lose someone, they would want to visit and come and sing. Now, after the funeral, everything ends there. Is that the best way? After losing a spouse. So we have to create and build systems. It is doable. One therapist to the other will start and it will help. policy advocacy and social support. Unfortunately, I'm speaking from personal experience. The help chain is broken. So if you don't get up from your corner, it will not be effective because I start from my corner and the person to continue is nowhere to be found or isn't aware that they are supposed to. So we can look at the adoption system, social welfare, all those systems are white elephants. Can we do something about it? Are we ready to speak to that? On our radio stations, what do we hear? NPP, NDC every morning. What have we gained from that? And in itself is traumatizing people. But these are some of the topics, these are some of the issues we can talk about and look for help. When we are able to do this, I believe we are going to help reduce the adverse effects if even we are not able to prevent. Ending my presentation, I will say that childhood traumas has a long-lasting effect. Yes. Healing is possible with the right support and dedication. I talk about dedication because usually people want one-time quick solutions. When it comes to trauma and mental health issues, there's no shortcut to resolving it. If the person have to meet the therapist for 10 to encourage, it is time we stop tagging people. You saw a psychologist, hey, then you are crazy. You are going to see a counselor, then your marriage is not. Is it? We don't seek these services only when we have problems. We have preventive therapy. We have mediation, then we have the problem itself. We can encourage people to take part and be interested in all of them. People shouldn't have problems before they come for therapy, but they don't know. Somebody have to educate them. And then counseling is not all about premarital. It goes beyond that. It is time we advocate these in our churches, in our small places, in our communities, by creating awareness and being compassionate about preventing and recovering from trauma. So this is what I have to share with you this evening. My name is Justina Owu-Agyiri. Thank you for being here with me. I'm ready for your questions.
All right. Thank you so much. Someone gave you a new name, Lady J, in the chat box that I saw.
That has been my name. My stage name. Let me put it that way.
Oh, your stage name is Lady J. Okay. And henceforth, I'll use that, brother.
Just so bad.
All right. Thank you very much. So, for this very insightful presentation. I think even the presentation has covered almost all my questions that I had before the program. You've covered almost everything that I have. So I think my co-host, Amma, I don't know if you have some questions. Other than that, we'll allow members or participants on the call who are ready can raise their hands. We'll call and then ask your questions. Amma, please, do you have any questions?
No, please. Thank you very much, Lady J. I'm sorry I earlier mentioned your name wrongly, but thank you for the correction. So, and thank you for the insightful presentation. Jones, please, you may proceed. We can have our people ask their questions and make their contributions. Thank you very much again.
All right. So, please, if you have any question or concern, you can use the raise hand button. We'll call you and you ask your question. As we wait to see some hands, we also have some comments in the chat box. which I'll be taking as we see if you can have some hands up. Mabel Avo says, I'm suffering from this. Thank you. Thank God I'm here. Sorry, Mabel, and we pray you find healing as well. Okay, so Benedicta is asking that what type of trauma is it when it involves a community?
Please come again with the question.
What type of trauma is it when it involves a community?
Okay, so the basic traumas are either primarily you are involved direct, or you are witnessing, or you are vicarious experience, that's in being shared. So the community one, say I'm from Amejope and I'm in Accra, something happened in Amejope and I'm being told. I mean, I'll start thinking about what happened to my relations, what happened to, and it's in itself traumatized. So it falls within this, any of these. It can be all at the same time, or it can be only one. So we have to have the assessment. We have to assess the situation to be able to draw conclusion of which kind is that trauma. I hope the question is answered.
Benedict, I hope you've been answered. But if you want a follow-up, you can equally ask or raise your hand and you can speak to us. All right, and she wants to also find out if there are any assessment tools to assess trauma or adverse childhood abuse, if there are any tools for that. And then let me
Yes,
just add the next question before you come in. She's also asking, can childhood trauma affect parenting style? Which I'm much interested in that question too.
yes. Okay, the first one, I think that the assessment tool is the name of the title of the topic. So you can get assessment tools, different kinds of assessment tools, depending on the professional conducting the assessment. So we have those based on the CBT, cognitive behavior. We have the trauma focus. We have the adverse childhood trauma effect assessment like that. So there are several assessments. I can connect and then share some with. But what happened is I didn't add any assessment to my presentation because you must be trained before you can apply so that you can understand what you are assessing and the information you would retrieve and what to do with it. That is why I didn't attach any to my presentation. But the person can hook up later and then I take care through one or two. That is one. Yes, the second question, yes, I made mention in my presentation that parenting or relationship as adverse side effects. It affects the kind of people we are and how we want to raise our children, which is also eating into our society now. So some parents think they wanted a certain life and they couldn't, so their children should live it. This is where you are pushed to read programs that you are not interested, but your parents want you to read a certain program. For all you know, they wanted to be that person, they couldn't for one reason or the other. Or parents want you to live in a certain way. Or your parents don't even consider your interest, which is very common. And I'm the mother, so whatever I say is the final. That is the essence of how parents become this way. Father's role is to beat children. That's what they know. So it's really impact on the parenting style, which is a crucial point. So for premarital counselors, please make it a deal. It's an issue that needs to be addressed before the marriage even starts. So you don't go and raise your child just like your parents raised you, that you become something that you know. I don't know, but you know there's something you become. So some men get angry and they will not give housekeeping money because they did not get sex, and they won't pay child school fees because their mother didn't give them the food they wanted. What role has the child played in this? But that is what they know as a result of their childhood traumas. I hope the question is answered.
Yes, I'm sure Benedicta,
Yes,
but
please. Thank
okay,
you, Lady Jane.
all right. All right, thank you, Benedicta, and thank you, lady, for the response. Harrison Justin Dente, he want to find out how easily accessible are clinical psychologists for prospective clients to assess, and how affordable are these services? I don't know if I should take it again. How easily accessible are clinical psychologists for prospective clients to assess, and how affordable are the services? Lady J, how accessible?
I guess you can answer those questions. I would say it's very, very accessible and affordable, especially when you use the hospital setting. It's very, very accessible and very, very affordable. I know in the private practice that it's a bit, even that one, it's a bit expensive, but not something that you cannot. So that is what I would say. We are now available. You go online, we are there. You type my name on Google, you find me somewhere. Or at least today you know, or you know somebody who knows. That's why I keep saying that as lay practitioner, the law demands that you work under a professional. It's not because you are inadequate, but for the betterment of services that we provide. So from here, hook up to one another. So get a buddy in practice so that you can refer appropriately. You shouldn't struggle referring cases that are beyond you. There are some like this trauma thing you can assess to a point, but you can't offer certain treatment. So if you are working with a professional, it makes it easier. So we are available, very, very, very available. Kolebu, you can easily find 137. My hospital, I gave you two hospitals, medics or health essentials. Medics clinic is at Chado. Atomic Energy is at Kwabenya. Dome Hachu, Atomic Road. The hospital is just by the roadside. So we are available.
All right, Lady J, but it seems you mentioned facilities centered in Greater Accra.
Help. I know whole municipal hospital is available. So add on for
All right, so I think, but by the way, on this very call, we have some professionals as well as non-practitioners too. So not only the lay practitioners are here. So it's a blend of a general community. So I think when you feel anything, the first point, just get to the nearest facility around you. Start from there and you'll be referred appropriately based on the assessment done. So the mental health facility at the health centers, you have mental health services available, the district hospitals, the regional hospital, the tertiary facilities, everywhere you can go, and based on need assessment, you'll be referred appropriately to see a therapist. So let's feel free to, but the services, as said, if you go to the government facilities, most are very affordable. ADJ, please, Namwa Boating wants to find out. He said, please, how do you deal with emotional neglect in a marriage so you don't pass it on to your children? The children, so he continued, the children can see that both parents are not happy. Yet, because of Christianity and for the sake of the children, they are still in a marriage. So how do you deal with emotional neglect in a marriage?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Before I go on the emotional neglect, usually when you go to the health facility and you want to speak to a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist, request. Tell them that you want that service because sometimes it's overlooked. So request for that, and if they don't have it, they will connect you. Like Jones said, we have professionals on this platform now. You can hook up, or you have Jones's number. You can ask him, and wherever you are, he will find you a therapist. These things are marital counseling based, okay? So it wouldn't take a day, but all that matters is one person must make a move. Don't pretend it's not there. Stop accepting that marriage is like that. No, marriage is supposed to be enjoyed, not to be endured. So the moment you notice there's a problem, you can walk to a hospital and look for a psychologist and will handle the marital issue. It's not always going to your pastor. Some don't have the skills. That is why they will keep telling you for marriage is like that. But as you go to the hospital, I've had cases, everything is okay. Then the person was referred. The person came to tell me, yes, he sees that is the relationship. So we started from there. It's not always that must lead to divorce or separation. Sometimes just miscommunication or misunderstanding. When you get it right, you will be able to make amends. The most important thing is you should be willing and dedicated to it, just as you would do for any other thing to your life. I think that is how I'll answer the emotional neglect. Sometimes the one causing it or both of you are causing it. It started from somewhere, and you think that is especially when people are using sex to get what they want or deprive partners because they didn't do. That's what they know. They don't even know other things to do or other ways or the effect of what they do. But when they get to learn, they'll be able to adjust and do a better aspect in their relationship. So you can seek for further. I can't give you details that I must get to.
Uh, May I say, sorry for your understanding. You
Uh,
can.
yes, yes. Good evening, and thank you very much, organizers, the presenter. I wanted to just add a little bit more to what Lije has shared regarding marriage, emotional neglect, all of that. It's important that we encourage people not to accept what they think is the situation because that's what it is. Hearing the question, to me, it sounds like, oh, we are settled in it like that. And so we now have to find ways to make sure our children are not affected. There is no way the children will not be affected if you do not do something about the situation to change that negative, lifestyle both of you or both married, the married couple have gotten themselves involved in. Nothing like that is acceptable, and there is help. There is help. And so rather than accept it as, well, this is, please get the necessary help or encourage the particular individual who is in this situation to get help. The need to change the situation is extremely important. Otherwise, this childhood trauma we are talking about, we, the parents, we ourselves will continue to perpetrate it because we live in it, we accept it, and we think that's what it is. Please, it has to change, and it changes by seeking help so that the children are also helped to have a better marriage in future. Thank you for allowing me.
Yes, thank you so much for the contribution. I can see a name, DJ. So DJ, please, you can unmute and speak.
Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. Um, Thank you, Lady J, for your presentation. Okay, I just want to say something brief. It's about myself. Okay, so growing up, my dad hasn't been there at all, and he passed on when I was, I think, 12. So I've had this big um void of a father's love and absence in my life. I haven't experienced it before. Um, I haven't had anybody to replace him. The one I thought could take his place, which I could call my father. That's my uncle, my dad's direct brother, almost abused me sexually. Because of that, I became scared and I stayed away from him. So I had this thing that all men were the same. Like growing up, this experience I never told anyone. I've lived with it up till now. I recently told my brother, I think last year. And because of that, I needed someone like a father figure in my life. I've yearned for that throughout the time I was in school because when there's PTA going on, you see my friends and their fathers coming. You go to church, you see people and their fathers and all that. It's Father's Day, people are wishing their fathers well and all that. I've never had that experience, so it's took a toll on me. Based on that, or I think 80% of that reason made me get married. I got married because I said, okay, let me get married and maybe my husband will be a father figure in my life, which I did. And it turned out to be a narcissist. Out of that, we had two kids, and the trauma and everything continued from there. So I decided to check myself into Accra Psychiatric, and then by God's grace, my healing began. But then the marriage ended due to abuse. You know how narcissists are and all that. So what you're saying is really true, and it's sort of plays out a lot in a lot of homes. Up till now, I have some people who are in my circle who have stopped talking to me because of the fact that I left my marriage. And I'm okay with that. I'm so okay because I've got kids. I don't want that experience to pass on to my kids. When I told my kids we were leaving, my son asked me, Mommy, are we leaving because daddy has been shouting at you? I was shocked. It means we saw everything that was going on. And I would say that it's not okay to just sit there and say marriage is this is how marriage is supposed to be, and then watch your children suffer, like go through that trauma phase. It's not a pretty thing. Before I realize they pass it on to their spouses and it keeps going on and on and on. So yeah, that's the little I want to share out of my experience. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, DJ. And sorry for your losses and your experiences. And thanks for sharing too with us. Lady J, I don't know if you want to say anything about her experience. She just shared with us.
Okay, all that I will have to say, I said it in the presentation about relationships and parenting. You see, because of her lack, she is attracted to certain, she's gotten attracted to certain people. And that is how come she will be fine with a narcissist without even recognizing the dangers until it got to that point. It happened to most people. So I'll just encourage during premarital counseling, some of these things are figured out and help. Some people, when they get to know, they will accept help. Others will deny and refuse it. But it's okay for the marriage not to come on. That is, broken relationships are better than broken marriages. So, and we know that these things are there. If the person doesn't want help, then the other person too can't pay for something he or she hasn't done. So sometimes it's better the marriages don't happen. But when they happen, in fact, when you, in as much as you submit to premarital counseling, so I encourage you submit to marital counseling. It doesn't mean you are weak. It doesn't mean you are not able to handle your marital issues, but it means you are strong and deliberate. You are brave. You take only brave people who look for help, even ahead of time. Some of these traumas have made us become, in quotes, monsters that we don't even know. So when your spouse are telling you, please take a pause and re-examine your life. We have to consider children. I always say that no matter how angry you are, when there's a child involved, be kind. to yourself and that child, because adverse childhood effects and experiences from trauma are very real, and it's killing society now. We end up raising monsters, raising narcissists. We have people that are not born with the mental health challenges they are going through, but through family history, they acquired them. It is time we help others so that we reduce this menace. We encourage people to go for assessment. After, when you assess and you are fine, it's a hooray. When you assess and there's a problem, you quickly resolve it, and for the benefit of everybody around you. I am so thankful to you for today.
Thank you very much. Ekia, you can unmute and speak.
All right, thank you very much, Jonas.
Oh, Sabina.
I would like to, I don't know, the lady who shared her life story. What's her name again?
DJ.
Okay, Madam DJ, thank you so much for sharing. And then I don't know if she's still online,
Yes, please,
but
I'm here.
yes, I'm so grateful for you speaking out like this.
You're
But I
welcome.
just want to say that, yes, you have experienced it. You've taken yourself for for therapy. You have gone through it. You have healed. Even if you are not perfectly healed, you are in the process of healing. So what I'm trying to say is that it should not always be how we talk about our post-traumatic stress. Right now, what you have done is post-traumatic growth, and that is what I want to dwell on. Let your experience speak to others. Let this experience be an impact, make an impact in people's life, be impactful, be an advocate from now on. And that is another strategy to be strong. That is another strategy to be relieved and be properly healed. Okay?
Okay.
So you can read more about it. Post-traumatic growth. Don't dwell so much on the post-traumatic distress because you are a survivor. You have gone through it, you have won, and you are winning. All right?
All
So
right.
I want you to be bold, speak about it anytime you have the opportunity, share your experience. The more you share, the more resilient you become.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful and thank you for sharing. You can connect later and we'll talk more.
Okay, please. Thank
All
Thank
you.
right.
you.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. And let me quickly mention that Ekia, who is also a Sabina answer, is also a counseling psychologist at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. So as I mentioned, we have other professionals on the call who can equally attend to you. I saw Pastor Solomon's hand up, but it's no longer up. Pastor Solomon, all your question has been answered already. I suppose so.
Yes, please.
All right.
Yes, please. I just want to add a little. I think this mentality that if you try to fight for your right, then people tag you with so many names. And that thing scares a lot of people to stand up for their right. And I think as counselors, we should encourage the people to stand out for their right. Standing for your right doesn't make you a weak person like the other speakers says. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me delve a little. So I want to find out, Lady J, in what ways can this childhood trauma affect individuals' faith, their spirituality, or sense of meaning and purpose in life? How can it affect our faith, our spirituality, and sense of meaning and purpose in life?
Okay, thank you. So when you look at the biopsychosocial spiritual model, we interconnect with these four things. So we are those four aspects. So if like DJ's story, now if Grace doesn't found her she tend to believe that God is not real, or whatever she wants to believe in doesn't exist or cannot even help. So I'm a Christian, so I'll use God. So then we tend to doubt God because we start knowing God as a father. So we're looking up to father figure as a God kind. So if God loves and God will provide and God will do all that, then I look forward that my father should be able, my earthly father should be able to do all those things. And I don't get all these things. So it means God is not there, just like my father is not there. God cannot provide, just like my father couldn't provide. So this is how it can affect our faith and our belief. Either we become overly dependent, so everything will be blamed on the spiritual. Because somebody is doing this, that is why my father isn't taking care of me. Or we tend not to believe at all. So you have people who say for them, they don't believe in God. Because if God exists, then I shouldn't have lost this, I shouldn't have happened those things. So it affects our belief and our relationship with our maker. So it's not just our physical life.
All right, thank you very much. I saw you respond to this comment, but let me read it for the benefit of people. You mentioned you reach out to the person. So Mabel Gavon says, I lost my mom 10 years ago, and my dad this year to diabetic wounds. Because I was the one with them in the hospital till they passed. Now I feel drawn. My relationship doesn't work because I get angry and unconcerned most at times. Now now everyone thinks I'm doing too much. I can't eat properly, and this is leading to health challenges. No one is minding me. I need help.
So I'm ready to mind you, okay? But what has happened is it's either she couldn't grieve or grieving wasn't done appropriately. And it's a traumatic experience. So the side effect of trauma is playing now. So I talk about gastrointestinal issues, digestive system issues, and it could lead to stomach ulcers and all those things. And that is what she's going through. Now, sometimes deep down at the back of her mind is like, if I've lost my parent through this means, it means everybody could also die, or it means I don't have anybody. It means nobody loves me. You get, these could be in her thoughts that she might not even be aware, and it's causing that difficulty. It's either, sometimes when you go through this situation, you are pushed to numb yourself, thinking that you are okay. You cry and they tell you don't cry. If you are not crying, accounts there, you are not crying because you are not happy, forgetting that we all have different ways of expressing our grief or our pain. So in her case, grieving wasn't done well or was not done. So there's help, like I said to her, there's help. So all hope is not lost. Just make yourself available and you'll be fine.
All right. Thank you very much for making yourself available to help her. And Mabel, Aaron Apia Obi is empathizing with you and says, be strong, dear. All right. Rosemary Atisu. She wants to find out, how do you deal with trauma from growing in a polygamous family where there has always been the notion that these other women should notion that these other women are better, and you grow up with the feelings that you are not good enough.
So we go back to the image of generational trauma. So a father was telling the son that you are not good enough. Then the other person will say to the child, you are stupid. Then the other is telling the child, I love you, whilst witnessing all these things. So which one is true? So you are having the impact from us, which means that you need help. There's always help available. These are not one-time quick statement to resolve it. We have to go through the process to find out emotions you're going to let to know even which therapy will work. So she needs cognitive restructuring to understand that she is not as bad as she was told. So we are going to identify her strength, her weakness, what she can do, what she can learn, and all those things. And then look at the thought patterns and then the thought cycle, how her thinking and her thought patterns are functioning and what she normally thinks about and all those things. So it's a full therapy that we can run it here. So just make yourself available, like I said, so that you can get help. Help is make yourself available.
Oh, help is love. Let me mention that this program is a collaboration between People Wellbeing Show, Psychological Association, Parallel and Associates Division. And then we are also supported by Movement of Ghana, House of EBQ, and Alpha Wave Consults. We are grateful to all our partners. I also have my co-host Amalabi on the line. Amma, if you can take the next set of questions.
Hi, Jonas. Please come again.
Yes, I'm handing over to you to take the next question.
Oh, okay. Please, I think there's none. Okay, please, have you read the last one in the chat box?
No,
Last.
please.
Okay. So we have one from Madame Edith Yak. She's asking, please, what about teachers who transfer their childhood traumas to the kids? What are some of the ways we as counseling psychologists can help them? I have a teacher in my school who makes students collect life ants in their hands as punishment. Edith, please, Madam Edith is asking how to ways in helping teachers deal with their childhood traumas.
Thank you so much. So, in order not to tag the teacher, you can have, I'm talking about, have a seminar or a presentation and talk about some of the things teachers may do unawarely, the learning and then classroom activities. Then you give some of these examples. Then you give them a space to come for sessions. One thing is that one difficult thing I've observed with practice that some people have tagged themselves that for them they don't need psychologists or they don't need counseling. But who else on earth doesn't need it? Psychologists need a psychologist to be better. A medical doctor need a medical doctor to be healthy. So it's everywhere. So we have to and help the person not in a way, but a way to help him understand. Even in the and some children are scared of ants. So if you go and tell that child to go and pick an ant, do you think the child will be happy in the school or concentrate? So these are some of the side effects. So the teacher must be educated. And I believe all teachers must be educated, especially in the school, so that others are doing other things, so that they know that some of these things impact negatively on their learning and then school activities and after school life. Yes, I know people who never completed school because of a teacher caning them. They stopped. You may be having in mind that you are correcting, but the person stopped schooling. You might not know, but those around knew that because he said it. These are some of the issues that why a counselor is in the school. So you are not just there for the people or the students. Some of these issues you identify and you make proposals. You can hook up with some of the professionals here to help you, right, to management for support in training or having a seminar in relation to such discussions. I hope I've answered the question.
All right, thank you. I want to find out this. So, talking about childhood trauma, how does it have any relationship or any intersection to developing eating disorders, self-esteem issues, and even body image concerns? Can we align, can we uh, have any intersections with this?
Okay, so on the effects of childhood trauma, that is slide 16, 17, 18, 19. They are there. So on our physical health, that is where we have gastrointestinal issues. That is the eating, that's where the eating disorder, the stomach ulcers, bulimia, anorexia, anorexia. When I talk about anorexia, I'm just referring to we those who don't want to eat. We find reasons. Sometimes growing up, you are not being fed, you are not allowed to eat, and you grow up with it. That is the effect of the trauma. So you have excuses. Sometimes your mind is telling you that you can wait. When you see food, your mind is telling you that, oh, you can wait. You are not hungry, you can wait. And the food is there and you are waiting and the day is gone. Or you don't want to eat because you don't want to put on weight. That is the anorexia. Then we have the bulimia. Those have a friend, I just don't like it, you know. I admire food. So they eat and eat and eat. They can't even breathe, but they still want to eat. So that is some way some people cope with the traumas they were going through in their childhood. So they are angry, they are beaten, and they are being fed. So they know that when I'm angry, I have to eat. So it happens. And then the binge eating, they don't sit down and eat a meal. So they are chewing a little biscuit, a little plantain chips. Women also often do that. In the kitchen, they will cook for everybody to eat. But they are taking the biscuits, the plantain chips, and you won't see them put food in a plate. They said that I'm eating lunch. So it's a result of, some people even want certain part of meat, certain kind of meat. They are all signs of childhood traumas. And then chronic pain or fatigue. So some people get to a certain place and they are tired. So it can be a crowded place. The moment they sit in public, they feel tired or unrest. So they have to find their way. These are all signs. And then we have the obesity, autoimmune diseases, and then heart diseases. Because when the brain is working more than it's supposed to work, blood pressure is increased. And these causes heart diseases and all those things. So this is some of the physical health issues. Then we have the brain development. So because it affects the brain development, you see that we struggle with certain things and we struggle to study even certain subjects. So I believe most of us on the platform, if you are like me, you were scared of mathematics. Not because we can't learn math, but because we'll be beaten. So me now maths and I won't go there so that I'll be beaten. So I haven't touched the subject. I haven't touched the exercise, but I know in the end I'll be beaten. I believe most of us have been through this, and this is how it affects the brain. So sometimes you develop or you are numbed, you think you are not enough. Your low self, emotionally low self-esteem and self-identity, struggle to even know I'm a woman or I'm a man, I'm a good one. I can do this. You lose all those things because all that you've been told you are lazy, you are lazy, you are useless. And the brain records without knowing whether it's real or not. That is the power of the brain. So yes, we have side effects from that. Addiction is also as a result of traumas. So we use other means to cope, like taking drugs, taking certain things. It all boils down to, it could be a good thing, but when you abuse it, it becomes an issue. So that is how childhood traumas can impact self-harm and all those things. So some people enjoy taking risky activities and it makes them feel good. That is what they were exposed to. Not that they really, really want it, but that's what they've come to accept, come to know.
All right. Thank you very much. So we've also learned that childhood trauma can also be an underlying reason for addiction. All right. I want to ask a follow-up to Madam Benedicta's earlier question, who asked about if childhood trauma can affect parenting style, and the answer was yes. So I want to ask, because I think I've had direct messages, how then if a parent is suffering this, how can the person cope so that their trauma is not transferred to their children?
Make someone more productive.
So that is when they accept help. So in therapy, we explore best practices. So let me use, instead of screaming as a father, you are taken through assertive training where you can say the same thing, but in a more humane or appropriate way than to scream, and then you can punish your words necessarily by beating or depriving them of food or basic needs. You see, so I keep referring to premarital counsel. Some of these issues should be raised, and then people will find themselves, then we address it so that they don't go into the marriage with. There are things you can correct before you even start becoming parents. But when you are in it and you notice that you are screaming and beating your children too much, you yourself, you know, everything you are hitting them, there's a problem. Everything you are screaming. And today's child will tell, Mommy, must you scream? Must you scream over this? When they start asking you that question, you know that you are overly doing it. And by so doing, we raise narcissist children. We raise children without empathy. We make them feel they are not enough. But that is not what you mean to do. So help yourself so that you don't transmit. Talking about generational trauma, that is how it is. It's not always spiritual. This is how we sometimes transmit the traumas, our childhood traumas, to our young ones, and they also transmit it. So we have to be deliberate about ending it. That's our generation, end those things. So that instead of punishing, we reinforce. Use the appropriate training methods. Because if a child is not able to study, I don't think the best way to help is to cane or infringe pain on the child. There are better ways to reinforce positive behavior and then help children unlearn negative behaviors. When you go for therapy, you are able to learn some of these things. It's just a communication gap. Once you learn how to communicate, the problem is halfway solved. And don't look forward that your partner will agree. It must start from someone, and you will be the best to start so that the results will push the other person to also come and enjoy the therapy.
All right. Thank you very much. Angie, I don't know if you want to unmute now and ask your question. Angie.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. Please, I wanted to ask, can childhood trauma make someone productive? Because there has been instances whereby because the child has been maybe put in a negative way that she or he cannot amount to anything, want to prove herself, so we'll go to the extreme of learning. A typical example, I know of someone who the father's friend said she's not going to amount to anything. So instead of the father taking her to school, she should rather use that money to buy a book and read. So because of that, the child said she always tried her best, even though she wasn't good at learning. She wanted to prove a point to the man that that negative word that she said won't have an impact on her. So whatever comes to her mind about study, she wants to take it and do it to prove to the man that she has amounted to something. So is there a case like that or some instances whereby a child can navigate the negativity into a productive activity or something?
Yes. The answer is yes. Like I said earlier, some people it's either under or over. So like in eating, people are eating less or eating more. So some people become workaholic. In their mind, they are proving someone. But if it's affecting their health, definitely it would because they have less rest. Then they have to be helped. After all, it's about you. Yes, the person said, like the image I put there, you are stupid, you are useless, you are good for nothing. So, I mean, the brain has absorbed, and I want to prove that I am not. You understand? So they become workaholic. They will do all the work to just justify that they are not useless. Basically, that is it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So, Madam Nadia, I know is also a counseling psychologist. Find this as a to assess childhood trauma.
Yes, contact me. I'll share.
All right. Thank you very much. Currently, the other messages are more appreciation for the presentation. Thank you. Wise Jude, like Babiano said, beautiful presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Aaron. Brilliant presentation, Pastor Benedict. Amazing presentation. Isaac Evia says, I am blessed to benefit from this program. Enjoying this live from University of Campus, counseling psychologist student. Thank you. And let me use this opportunity to acknowledge our students from UHAS psychology departments. They are also on the call. We also have UHAS master student on the call. We also have master students psychology department from University of Ghana. We also have University of Cape Coast. We have some students from there as well. So we want to appreciate all of you for joining. Foster Nyamiche says, thank you very much. We are impressed. Nana Koko, a very detailed presentation. Thank you. Charity, thanks for the presentation. And there is a lot of appreciation. So someone is asking, Jay, can the presentation be shared or can the slides be shared?
Jonas, are you waiting for my answer?
So maybe a permission from you first.
Okay, we'll talk about that behind the scenes.
All right. So, those asking for the presentation, when I get a response, I'll let you know about that. But however, the recordings will also be shared where you can then play back and listen to everything into details. Okay, so Nadia is here with a question. Is that on awareness creation and education is, sorry, let me take it on education funding is very important. What is your view on that? Any recommendation? Madam Nadia, I don't know if you can unmute and clarify your question for us.
Okay, so I wanted to say that we were talking about awareness creation and education on childhood trauma, but it takes a lot of money, and what do we with this funding and everything? Any recommendation, even your view on that? Thank you.
I think this question is for all of us. We can bring ideas. But I like the way you respond. But however, we can start small kind of in our church, in our sub groupings, in the churches, in the community. You hear some women organizing something. I mean, it takes voluntary or a bit of volunteering spirit. I do review programs and nobody even paid my transportation. But I keep to tell people that that's my congregation. Everybody that listens to me, that is what I fed myself with, then that encourages me. Because if we're looking for funding, it's difficult. They know it's empowering, but it's difficult. So let's start small whilst we look for. Jones will help us with a better opportunity to raise funds for that. And then putting proposals together. I have a proposal and people are giving me excuses. What can I do? But I still do it in my little small way. So I think I'll encourage everybody to do so. Hook up with 2, 3, we organize some few women, few men, somewhere, few people, and then we talk to them on that. That's just small meanings.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Kwame Wachi, your mic. Yes. Okay. Madam Nadia, maybe if you have any specific program in mind, you can equally write to GPA and GPA will see, look at it and see how best we can work together. So that is what I will say to add to guest speaker said. And however, just as we can all do this now always without funds actually. And I only may take this opportunity to thank our presenter because this webinar lasting from 7 till 9 now. It's not a paid, so we can do this and counted 85 participants. So all these 85 people, we call this information and share with others, and we are making impact in society. The awareness is so we don't need huge fundings to make awareness like this. We can take it upon ourselves and engage in. However, the impact and rights to GPA. Okay, those are well noted. We'll look at that. But as I've mentioned, this is a collaborative webinar between GPA and Purple Wellbeing Show, funded by Amma Labi. And we are being supported by Great Commission Movement, House of EDQ, and then Alpha Wave Concerts. So, Lady J, your concluding remarks, if you have, and we will end here.
All right. All that I'm saying is thank you so much. Let's not sit on the information that we have, but we should move with it as soon as possible. Everybody has a role to play, fighting childhood traumas and its adverse effects. It doesn't take one person. It wouldn't take just a psychologist. It takes the teacher, the parents, the medical healthcare providers, and everybody, the community leaders, and everybody to be able to fight this canker. So now that you know, one at a time brings people on board to understand that having fun with our life could be traumatizing enough for the younger people, especially those that are very close with us, so that we are careful the way we want to live our life and the way we want to enjoy our life in order not to impact negatively on other innocent ones. If you are not ready for marriage, please don't, because in the end, an innocent person will suffer. It's better you are alone than to cause pain to innocent ones. I am so grateful for this opportunity. And then never look down on yourself because of your childhood. There's always hope and there's always life in the now. Live one day at a time. Now is the issue, not yesterday, not tomorrow. It's today, now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let us live one day at a time. Thank you for those great inspirational words. Amma, please, if you have any announcement, any information to share with us, we are with you.
No, please.
Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll come your way next time with another insightful presentation. Anytime you see our invites, we are glad. We pray you join us so that we can continue to share knowledge together. And to Lady J, God bless you so much. But the short notice and this adequate preparation you've had, we are so much grateful. And God bless you so much. And everybody that joined, if you didn't join, the program wouldn't have been this successful. So thank you so much. And our students, everyone, God bless you. And we'll see you another time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the recording can be stopped now.